Fall in, dress right dress, cover down, 4 and 40, all around. It's time for the Abington Veterans Muster. My name is Travis Parrington, Marine Corps veteran, Abington resident, and host of the Abington Veterans Muster. Thank you again for tuning in and watching. We've got a great show for you. It's Veterans Day week, is what I like to say. It's no longer, you can no longer fit all the Veterans Day events, celebrations, and tributes and legacies in one day anymore. It's become a week, and I couldn't be happier. And starting off with this week's news, I want to highlight and shout out to the Abington Council on Aging. The senior informer has, back in the old days where the newspaper guys said, extra, 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 read all about it. They have this really cool, section in their paper, and I'm going to read it to you. So first and foremost, we're going to start off with the Chapter 115 benefit. If you're an Abington veteran or a widow of a veteran and you meet the requirements to get assistance, go see Adam Gunn or Lisa McGovern at the Abington Town Hall and see what the Chapter 115 program can do for you. It's there for you from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and you should take advantage of it. Very simple, very easy. Go down and see them, talk to them, and they'll get you on your way. Next, we have the tax abatement work-off program. And these are people who want to volunteer and do work for veterans in Abington, and Adam can get you hooked up with that program. The current initiative is he's looking for 2 people who want to help out and implement the Hometown Heroes banners and earn a property tax abatement up to $1,500. Volunteers must be familiar and comfortable with computers. So they're also looking for someone to assist with driving and to raise and lower Old Glory when it is ordered to have staff in Abington. And this is kind of, if you see here, you can see Marine Corps Sergeant Daniel Vasilian is going to be on one of the banners. So this is a very important initiative, and you can help out, honor our heroes here in Abington and get a break on your taxes. I know a lot of you who help veterans out don't want a attaboy or a pat on the back or even any kind of repayment whatsoever, but in my view, less taxes is always more. And I'm a more is more kind of a guy, so this is available to you. You can do some good work right here in Abington and help everyone out. Thank you. But wait, there's more, and I'm a more is more kind of guy, and more is always more. This is year number 4. We've done the annual veteran celebration for Abington veterans at the Abington Council of Aging. And it's a great experience. Last year, Yaz's table came with coffee and pastries before the event. There's this big, long applause line for veterans coming in, and we have all these organizations, companies, local businesses, veterans advocacy groups come in and talk about what they do with veterans right here in the South Shore area and in Abington. And it's a great experience. You can come there, get some pins, learn about things that are available to you as a veteran, meet some people, shake some hands, and say hello. It's always a great time. The Council on Aging, the Abington Town Hall, and the Abington Veteran Services goes out of their way to make this a special event. So it starts at 10 a.m. They'll bring us all in, and they'll start this off, and we can collaborate with the vendors, and then they feed us lunch, and not just any lunch. South Shore Votech is providing the lunch this year for us all, and it is going to be amazing, simply amazing. We're going to have some speakers and some cool raffle items and prizes, and it's just been a very fantastic experience that gets better every year that it's done. And so just a big thank you from Adam Gunn for all the help putting this together. We want to thank everybody who's pitched in and helped make this better already. And there's still more. There's still more. Closing out Veterans Day week. And like I said, you can't fit everything veteran in one day anymore. And I couldn't be happier. It's not just a also ran in the paper or a note on the calendar or a Facebook banner. It's Veterans Day. It's become like this week-long thing. And in my view, every day should be Veterans Day, but that's a different story. To close this out on November 11th, we have the annual Tri-Town Veterans Day Parade, number 71. 71 years of doing this, with Abington, Whitman, and Rockland, Massachusetts all coming together to do this big parade in honor of our veterans. This year it starts at Beaverbrook Elementary and goes down the old parade route and ends in a very good note. It's a very cool thing to see. Come on down, check it out. You're going to see Adam there. You might see me even. And check out the floats and the veterans and the people coming by. This is just a great way to take a day and come out and support those who are, in my view, real heroes, So again, to cover what we have going on, we have the Chapter 115 benefit, we have the tax abatement work-off program. November 6th is the annual Veterans Day celebration and the Tri-Town Parade. If you want to participate or be a part of this in any way, shape, or form, you can contact Ken Coburn, last month's guest, at his cell phone 781-424-7375 or the email at abingtonpost112@verizon.net. And for all veterans out there, I'll close with this. If you are not a member of the Abington American Legion, you're not right. Go down there, get yourself squared away, and get part of a great organization right here in Abington. That's the word passed down. I'm ready for my next guest. Thank you so much. Stand by to stand by. Welcome back. We have an amazing set of guests all through the Abington Veterans Muster, and it just keeps getting better and better. I've been very blessed, very pleased at who Adam Gunn has gotten to talk with us and share with us about their experiences, and today is no exception. And it's a series of firsts for me and for Abington Veterans Muster. We're talking to someone from the Veterans Administration. So that's just like, yay! I can't believe it. I am so excited. And then he's Lieutenant Colonel, retired, double yay. I've known a lot of colonels and lieutenant colonels, and they're all like cut from the same cloth, so that's awesome. And then, did I say he's from the VA? And some of you may recognize my guest when we introduce him, but for those of you who don't know, this guest does outreach in the community, and I'm so pleased to introduce David Hencke from the Veterans Administration here in the Brockton, Boston VA system. Welcome to the Abington Veterans Muster.
Thank you, Travis. Real happy to be down here. This is great.
This is awesome. Like, for years now, I have been doing, Oscar Mike Radio, and that's a different thing, but, we've been kind of emailing back and forth about different things and, asking questions, so on and so forth. And then I get to meet you at some events. And the last event, one of the last events was the PACT Act event at the Whitman VFW. And you all came down there and explained how the PACT Act was going to work. And your role as this community engagement officer, the VA wants to be there. And we're getting to all that and all the good stuff, and it's all good, folks. But before we do that, you have a pretty expansive career in the military. So tell us, what did you do in the military, sir?
No, nothing too exciting. So I'm David Hencke, VA Boston Healthcare. So I did about 30 years all told. And by the way, can't hold against me, you had to throw it out there. I did enlist first, so.
You're a Mustang too?
No, a ROTC, Nazi, ROTC. But, so they didn't remove all of the frontal matter when I got commissioned. They left, you get to keep some of that if you're enlisted. So hopefully there's a little more.
You didn't get lost.
Sense there. But yeah, I did 30 years Army between active guard reserve and traditional guard and so on and so forth, and kind of lends into my story about how I arrived in the Boston area.
Yeah, we could just spend 4 hours just going over your Army story, and I'm sure you have some amazing stories. But how does one serve 30 years in the Army National Guard system, decide to get out? And so let me tell you something, sir. Us enlisted get this idea sometimes that when officers get out, especially like 04 and above, you all get out and there's a stretch limousine that pulls up to your house, it takes you there, and you roll out of the limousine with an honor guard, red carpet, the whole 9 yards, right? Right? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Oh, really?
You know, it's a little fuzzy. We're not supposed to tell. You know, there's this code. But
I knew it.
I'll share some.
Okay, okay. But how does it work, being in the Army for that long in that system, and then transitioning out and finding your way to the VA?
Well, that's a great thing. Pardon me, about being in the American military is that you know, we're all one team, one fight. And we play these roles, we'll say we play these roles, a very serious business and a very authentic business in that sense, and which draws a lot of guys and gals to the military these days because it is a real business. It's as serious as life gets, and you're searching for something real in life. But that's one of the great things about the American military is that you know, we play and we serve in these certain roles that have to, in these functions that have to be done, but in the end, we're just all soldiers. We're all just trying to do a job. We've all raised our hand, taken an oath, swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution, and it's just such an honor to have walked through that. Whether as enlisted, you know, I remember my first night basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, pulling charge of quarters at 2 in the morning, and just sitting there just happy as a pig in slop because I'm in the Army. I got a uniform. It's got my name on here, and I got, you know, private E2 wings on, and you know what? That pretty much lasted for 30 years that I was in the service. So just that I get to be an American soldier, and so that's really the summary of service. And it's good too on the side in terms of leadership, whether it's NCO leadership or officer leadership. That hey, I want to have a hand in making decisions on how things should go and how to make things better for others. So eventually I followed the officer path and through RTC, as I was mentioning, and took my commission, and then traveled all the way through till I'm here in the Boston area. And I just to shortly summarize that, I was stationed at the National Guard Bureau headquarters there in D.C., and had come out of the 29th Infantry Division and the Virginia National Guard, and full-time staff down there in Fort Pickett, Virginia. And ended up picking up a tour in D.C. at Guard Bureau, ended up serving there for several years during 9/11. But I met my wonderful wife at the Pentagon Sailing Club, which is where you might go to meet women in D.C. So the Pentagon Sailing Club, they had the ski club anyway. And well, it turned out she was an MIT graduate doing postgraduate work at the Naval Research Lab in D.C. And so after we got married, and after a couple of years, she said, "Hey, I'd really like to go back to Boston." I said, "Where's Boston?" And anyway, but it worked out, and sure enough, we relocated, finished out my military career here, and then shortly after, actually went right from uniform full-time service in the Guard right into working in the VA. Really?
So no, you know, hitch, no gap.
I missed the limousine ride or something. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
no, I went right into the VA. Yeah. No, I did not have that transition thing, and I got to say, I'm just so blessed to have had that time in the service, and then to go right into another wonderful organization, the Veterans Affairs, and so many similarities, and to be in that, to be able to jump from the one to the other. Just I feel blessed in the sense that I didn't have to miss that gap, or really go into that gap. Sometimes a lot of folks go through, and that kind of a loss of mission or sense of being, or who am I, and what am I supposed to do next. And, you know, some people, they're looking ahead and they're like, good, I'm done with the military, let's go, I got stuff I want to do. And then a lot of us, you know, you come out, well, that was my whole mentality, that was my family, that was my world, you know.
Right.
And you're kind of grasping around, what am I supposed to be, what am I supposed to do next? But the VA really is a mission-oriented place, just like the military was in so many ways. And so again, thankfully, I feel like I was blessed, able to go right from full-time uniform service into full-time continuing service.
So kind of enlighten me, is your role more community outreach, or is it more education around healthcare benefits for veterans in the form of community outreach?
Yeah, so I was an infantry officer, enlisted infantry, commissioned infantry, so I didn't know nothing about medicine. And God bless them, the medical folks in the military, they're just the best, you know, whether it's Navy corpsmen or Army medics or whatever. Everybody knows doc is the best, you know, and the guys and gals that are in the medical service really are just some of the best, and the folks that we go to a lot of times with our needs and our hurts. But I didn't know anything about that, didn't really want to do anything with that necessarily. But I did know this. I knew that the VA takes care of people, and I saw, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We have the Chaplains Corps. We're the only government agency that I know of that has a full service Chaplains Corps. Things like that. And I knew the VA had just done great things. Actually, for my grandfather after World War I, when the VA started, I didn't realize it. Dad says, "Yeah, I used to go to the VA when your grandfather was back." It's like, what year was this? Then the 1920s, and so my dad's still alive. I guess another blessing. He's 99 years old.
Wow.
And Army Air Corps veteran, flew. He was a machine gunner, B-29 bombers in the Pacific. So this long story wraps up to say that I've had this experience that I knew the VA was a great place and that it was mission oriented and that it provided essential care for folks, which as a leader, as any of us, NCOs, officers, whatever it is, we know, and any of us that had leadership in the military know it's the troops first and it's the mission, or you can say the mission first and troops always, either way you want to flip it around.
Right.
Soldiers first, mission always, or mission first, soldiers always. But the point is, if you're worth anything as a leader, you know that you give your heart and your soul to taking care of those around you. And at the VA, it's all about that same fellowship mentality, family mentality, that when people walk in the door at the VA, hey, you're not a patient, you are a patient, but you're not essentially a patient or a client, you're a family member. When you come in the door of the VA, folks there either serve themselves, about 30% or more of us have served in the military, or the rest, and I'd say 80–90% of the surveys informal surveys I've taken of our employees, but most of them have had, if they hadn't served, they have a family member, an immediate family member that served, they're married to somebody that was in the military or is still serving, or they have really good friends and family. So there is a huge emphasis and experience level there for people that have this feeling of mission and self-sacrificing service to continue to serve.
Well, I can say for myself personally, I had to, I got into VA medical care. It's a different story, but I had to really take advantage and get services 3 years ago. Long story, but it was a VA PT civilian. Dr. G, as I call her, said, "We're going to get you back together again." And what they did for me was really like, I wouldn't have gotten the same level of care in a civilian facility unless I was,
Wow.
paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars. The care was second to none, and it's always stayed with me.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, we can talk about it offline, but the VA was there for me when I needed them, which leads me to a question that I hear a lot, or statement I hear a lot from my fellow veterans. And you gotta understand, David, I don't like hospitals. I don't like going to the doctor.
I work at one. It's not my
right. I
favorite
mean,
place either.
you need a shot or an extraction or something.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
done. But here's a statement I hear, and I'm sure you've heard it before, is, well, I did get hurt in the service, but I don't want to go to the VA because I'm going to take money from some other veteran who might need it more, even though I can't walk I'm having trouble, sir, getting point A to point B to connect so they'll actually go. I'll drive you down there.
Yeah.
But where does that come from? First of all, is it true that there's not enough money for the veteran? I know the answer, but I mean, maybe hearing it from a different source will kind of shed some light on this, because I try to tell them that that's not right.
Yeah. So VA is fully funded. Absolutely fully funded. And you know how we get fully funded more, or how we get more funds for Brockton VA campus, Boston, JP, Jamaica, how we get more money to help all of us is by more of us using the VA. Every time one of us walks in the door and says, I need something, I need to use this, or you come in for treatment, anything, that trips the trigger for the funding. And that's how government programs work. And that's the deal. If we're not using it, how does the government work? Well, it's like, well, I guess they didn't need it. End of the budget year, it's like, guess they didn't need it. We'll scoop it all back. We don't give you as much next year because you obviously didn't need it. So I'm telling veterans, and that's the wonderful family, the group of folks that I got to serve with, all our military veterans. All of us were trained. When we walk in the door, when it starts out, man, it's not about me anymore. It's the first lesson you learn. They shave your head for the guys, and they put you in these clothes and yell at you, and you start becoming taking on a different persona a bit. But you quickly realize it isn't about you, and you learn it's about taking care of everybody around you. It's about, again, accomplishing that mission first, but then taking care of your family around you. Those are the good military units and the good teams. Not all units have that great esprit de corps, but the very best obviously do, and they have that family type experience. So as I share with veterans, look, if you want to help fellow veterans, yeah, I had a good time, good service, experience. Yeah, well, you want to help them out? Go over and enroll and use the VA. Just go in once a year. You don't have to give up. Nobody has to give up outside health care, but you go in once a year. That trips the trigger for all of us. And guess what? When you walk in the door there, I can about guarantee you, you're going to say that, wow, I really like this place, or I absolutely love it. And so for like a lot of us, myself included, the day after the day I had my first experience with the VA caregiver, I have literally never stepped foot back in my outside hospital again. I live 3 blocks from one of the greatest hospitals in North America and maybe on the planet. Fantastic hospital, but the VA is better. And I go there, do everything there, and again, have never stepped foot back in my old hospital.
Well, sir, they got me with Girl Scout cookies.
The giveaways. Yeah.
Well, I went there and I'm like, oh, PT's going to suck. This is going to be terrible. I'm feeling brutal, and that's all good, of course, from what I told. And I walk out, and there's this wonderful lady with like, here's some Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't so bad after all.
The coffee lady, it's like the war, the donut dollies. Like you got them out there with the snacks and coffee, and you come in, and there's people like, hey, how you doing? And
it was great. It made the pain worth it.
Yeah.
But so this kind of dovetails into, or leads into, what I want to talk about next is you have this experience in the VA, and I see you out in the community. So what are you trying to do when you come to like a VFW or another place to talk about veterans issues? Are you trying to tell people about the story of the VA, or what's going on in the outreach portion?
Well, again, like we were talking about, the way these programs are funded is by the level that they're used and that the goods and services are consumed. So again, if we're not consuming them, we're not going to be funded. The doors aren't going to stay open. So, in the sense, the government has the money, but we have to show the need that that we're using that in this, particularly this part of the country. And the challenge here is we have a lot of great hospitals. People are pretty well employed, and there becomes this thought process or this mentality that, oh, I had a great job, or oh, I've got great insurance. Not thinking, not realizing that, well, you're paying for that because that's the way it works in this country. You want to get that great health care where you're actually paying out of your pocket for it all those years, those premiums, all those deductibles. That, in a way, they stick it to you every way they can to get their, it's a money-making deal for health care, except for VA health care. And the concept here is, did you raise your hand and take that oath? Did you serve honorably, under honorable conditions? You earned this. You've earned this. This is a benefit. This is an investment you made the day you raised your hand, took that oath, and then served. You've already paid into a system. And I tell young guys and gals coming out of the service right now, it's like, hey, dude, you've already won the lottery, man. You have hit the jackpot. Now that you're coming out, you don't have to worry about probably one of the most pressing issues for a lot of people for the rest of their lives, always having to pay for health care. You don't ever have to worry about that because you've already won the jackpot in that sense. You've already hit the jackpot in that sense. What you need to do is come in and start cashing in, taking advantage of everything that you picked up.
So tell me, or share with us, an example of a success. You don't have to use names or whatever, but a success story where you're out doing outreach.
Yeah.
You're continuing that legacy of service. As lieutenant colonel or not, it's about the soldier, sailor, marine, airman.
Yeah.
And someone comes up to you and you talk with them and they do what you encourage them to do. Can you share a story about that? Not chapter and verse, not names, but tell me what that was like.
Yeah, so I'll tell you one of the good ones, and it's a lesson for me. One of the things I learned when I got to the VA and the whole medical culture was that they use this thing called preventive medicine. And I'm like, preventive medicine, okay? And I was raised up, first thing I learned in the military was preventive maintenance.
Exactly.
And guess what? They're pretty much the same thing. And that's how I figured out, it's like, oh, troops, that's the thing. Troops, we don't want to do what's good for ourselves a lot of times. You know, you got it. That's why you have NCOs that take you by the ear, says, "Look at me, troop. You know, you need to do this. You need to take care of yourself." It's like, "Yes, Sergeant. Yeah, yes, Chief. Okay, yep." You know, and that's how we learn to, you know, to do the right things for ourselves. So it comes down to healthcare, something in the same scenario, in the sense that we may or may not want to go into that hospital, but I did learn about preventive maintenance, where it doesn't matter what I do. Before I eat, before I go running off to the chow hall or go to the movie or take a shower, the first thing I do is maintain the equipment, make sure do the check. Remember the checklist, the pre-operations, post-operations check. You know, that weapon system, that communication system, that radar, everything's got to be, you know, squared away, ready to go, spit and polished, ready to operate, and then you go and do other things. So, hey, same thing with this operating system. We got to go in, have it regularly maintained. So every year it comes around to like, oh man, I got to do my physical again. Well, yeah, because you learned that in the military. Whatever your service was, we all learned about regular preventive maintenance. So I look at healthcare, for lack of a better term, as preventive maintenance. But you know what? That really is, it's just the right way to live. It's the right thing to do. So getting in there and taking advantage of it. And then as I'm getting older, things are starting to hurt and things are popping up. Now it's also a blessing, because they help make that pain go away, or they help me deal with it, or whatever it is that I need. So,
you know, we're coming into what I call Veterans Day week. It's, you can't fit everything into one day for Veterans Day anymore. And, you know, looking forward into the state of veterans now in 2025, you know, the VA has more women veterans that they're serving. They have an increase because of the PACT Act. You know, how are you involved with structuring some of the VA outreach and programs to serve these constituencies?
Yeah, so the VA has always been focused on, let's say, underserved populations. We get these directives to reach out to rural veterans is a big one. Now, this part of Massachusetts, there's, you know, probably 2% of our veterans that are outside of a 30-minute drive to a VA, which is amazing, because we have the 5 clinics we get just in Eastern Mass with VA Boston, 3 big medical centers and the 5 clinics. So, yeah, that's a constant effort to get people again to do what they should be doing for themselves. And again, as they do what they should be doing for themselves, it helps all of us. Getting people motivated is part of it. Getting myself motivated to do something I should be doing. So, talking about the whole maintenance deal, you were asking about an encounter with somebody. So I remember meeting a veteran, Vietnam guy. Was at some event. I had my VA table out there, and he's cruising by, and I see the Vietnam shirt or something. And I see he's a veteran. It's like, hey, so you served? Yeah. He's like, VA stuff. Okay. And it's like, well, you know, are you using your VA healthcare? Did you ever tap into that? Oh, you know, man, I'm good. You know, I said, you know, I'll when I break down, you know, I'll figure I'll get to it someday. It's like, well, you know, it's ready for you now. Matter of fact, you've already paid for this. So instead of paying more money for stuff that you could be getting, you know, for free at the VA, you know, what's the deal? He says, well, when I break down, I said, well, what service were you in? Marine Corps. He was a Marine. Nice, good, smart Marine, great guy. And I said, what'd you do in the Marine Corps? He's a Vietnam vet, machine gunner, and 60 gunner in the Marine Corps. I said, all right, so when you came back from patrol in Vietnam, did you just throw that thing in the corner and then run out to the chow hall? He's like, no, man, you know, first thing you do, you got to break it down, you know, clean and oil it, you know, functions check, everything else. Then you guys said, right, preventive maintenance. So are you doing your preventive maintenance, Reg? You know, he's like, you know what, you're right. I need to start doing this. So that's kind of thing of getting people motivated. But it's very true. We are reaching out, focusing on, we have a huge, great women's veterans program. It's just, you know, high-speed, whole clinics dedicated just to women's veterans. Covers everybody's health needs. So
nice. That is a smart Marine, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too at the VA that you get people to understand that it covers everything you possibly need. So, you know, I just say simply, flu shots to brain surgery. We've got it all. We literally cover all of your healthcare needs for the rest of your life. Dental's a bit of an outlier. Dental is the one area in healthcare that you can get dental care at the VA if you have certain conditions, you know, and any number of things. But for a lot of us at the VA, most of us don't automatically qualify for the VA dental care, but there is Delta Dental program, and you do pay a small deductible for Delta Dental. You pay a premium fee for the Delta Dental, but all these other services, those surgeries and tests and exams and everything, you pay virtually nothing for most of that. The most that we do pay is if you're a veteran, you're making good money somewhere, well, you might be, and you don't have any significant service-connected disabilities, well, you might pay an office visit copay here or there, or a long-term stay, you might pay a bit of a copay for long-term stay, but compared to what you're paying on the outside, that's nothing. It's huge cost savings. That's, which is great, you know, I like that, but more importantly, is it's really quality care. And I'll just wrap up on that just to share that, you know, I've got the same doctor that I had at Mass Eye and Ear, works down the hall from me at Jamaica Plain VA. The same guy I was getting my treatment from, paying all that good money to my great insurance company, and I can walk down the hall to Jamaica Plain VA, get the same treatment, I'm paying $0. And I asked this particular physician, I said, so what's the deal? Why do you practice here at the VA and over there? And I quickly learned that a lot of our physicians are dually appointed or have dual practices. But he told me, he says, the reason I do it is I love my country. I didn't wear a uniform, I didn't get to serve, and this is my way of serving and giving back. And he says, plus I get to be a great physician here, because when I'm working on the outside at all these regular great healthcare facilities, we're jamming people through there one after the other. When you come to the VA, you're part of an elite population. You're less than Massachusetts, you're like 6% of the population or less. So we have lots of time for you, and I get to give really quality health care here. And as a physician, I love being able to do that. I was like, that works for me.
Winding this down, you served our country in the Army for 30 years, and now you transitioned into the VA. You mentioned that the service level really didn't change, the mission focus for you didn't change. But what's it been like realizing that you've dedicated your life to service and you can see what you do affect the veterans and soldiers that you served with, like right then and there?
Yeah, I got to say, I'm happy to go home every night knowing that I'm still serving in a way. I have that blessing, I think, because it really is an empowering place, like you were talking about. Hey, they don't always do everything right there, but guess what? They don't do everything right any of these places I've been to. I've been to some of the best hospitals in the world again, and they've, you know, screwed something up here or there. But by and large, when you walk in there, you feel that sense of dedication, that mission focus, and people there that really give a darn, and they care about you, or they want to go the extra mile in some ways, because they know that you have, that whatever you did, that you raised your hand and took that oath, and you went out and put it on the line for all of us. And so in that sense, a lot of these folks are really motivated by that thought that, well, we want to give back because we know that in some way or another you either literally put it on the line or you were willing to put it on the line for us. And that just makes a really special atmosphere when you walk into a VA hospital that you're just not going to feel anywhere else. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure. No. I have felt it. I've experienced it, and it's just great kind of seeing the other side of the coin, if you will, sir. I'm not saying all of us are directionally challenged, but how does a veteran watching this show or just in general say, okay, I'm going to finally get connected to the VA? What should we do to connect to the VA if we haven't or should?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's that thing about people just waiting to do what they should have done a long time ago, you know, like even putting in my disability claim. So the challenge in this area, I'll say this, in terms of being able to use VA care, unfortunately there's an income limit. So did you serve regular active duty, okay, federal active duty, or if you were Guard and Reserve, were you federally mobilized for one of these contingency operations? Yep, served federal active duty or was mobilized, whatever. Okay, and do you have an honorable or under honorable conditions discharge? Yep, I got that. And you served, usually it's 2 years in this time frame now. Before 1980, it could be a matter of days even, but anyways, roughly 2 years, yep, got that. Well, the next gate, unfortunately, unless you have a service-connected disability, unless, and there are a lot of unlesses, by the way, there are a lot of exceptions to this, but there is an income limit in this area that, and this is something that the Congress, whatever, imposed, made this system several years ago, many years ago, and they put an income limit in the sense that I think the idea is that, well, we don't know if we want to make sure that those are that need it the most get it. But at any rate, don't think that's the way we would want to go about it, or the intent was originally when they formed the VA, but that's the way it is. So in this area, it's about 70,000 or so as a veteran, as a single veteran. If you're married, guess what? They're going to count your spouse's income too. Now, they didn't ask you about that when you went in the service. I get that. And why they do that, again, it's not the VA. I say it's the lawmakers have determined it. So the way it is right now, so they'll ask about your household income, and it's around 105,000 is that limit. So me, for example, 30 years in the service between traditional guard, active guard, this and that, full-time service. You know, I came out, I said, this is great. I'm going to start using my VA healthcare, save a lot of money. Here, it's a great place. I walk in there and they said, oh, this is great. Check, check, check. Oh, how much did you make? It's like, well, you know, between my wife and I, we make this. Oh, yeah, really sorry, you can't use a VA. And I'm like, are you kidding me? 30 years in the service, I can't use it because of that income limit. So the next question is, well, wait a minute. So there are several questions. You know, were you in Vietnam? No, were you deployed to the Gulf War? And I quickly realized, because those are walk-in-the-door conditions, exceptions to the policy, doesn't matter how much money you make, if you had deployed to one of these areas, and guess what it's related to? Toxic exposure. But if you had deployed to one of these areas, you know, oil well fires in the Gulf War, Vietnam, Agent Orange, and now with OIF, OEF, all the post 9/11 generation, you know, of course, it's the burn pits. But if you were in any of these areas, whether you're sick or not, you may be perfectly healthy, nothing happened to you, but if you were in and deployed to one of these areas, you automatically get to use VA healthcare, no questions asked. And so those are great exceptions. The other great exception to this whole income thing is service-connected disability. And, you know, that's simply, did something happen to you in the service that still bugs you, that you still have mentally, emotionally, physically, even, but did you have something that happened to you in the service that still affects you to this day? And is that, you know, that's considered a disability? And if so, that's a service-connected disability. If you make that nexus, it happened in the service, it's still bugging me, it's something I can prove medically, generally, you know. If you can do that, then our friends at the VBA, so I'm Veterans Healthcare, right? Yep. VHA, Veterans Healthcare Administration. My cousins over at the Veterans Benefits Administration, the folks downtown in the JFK building and downtown in Providence, they take those disability claims and they have you checked out and they adjudicate them. If there's a nexus there, they'll check the block and bam, you get a service-connected disability. And guess what? Anybody with a service-connected disability gets to walk into the door and use VA care. So I had somebody at the VA say, well, look, did anything happen to you in those 30 years? You know, how's your back? How's your knees? You know, how's your hearing? You know, and I'm like, well, yeah, I got a couple things, but I don't want to be disabled. They're like, look, government's got plenty of money. You don't worry about that. If you want to use VA care, there's a whole provision for you to do that. Put in your disability claim. It's like, okay. So I put in, you know, because I had 2 or 3 things that, you know, were valid. I put them in. Sure enough, within a matter of months, you know, 4 or 5 months, got this letter back from the Veterans Benefits folks who said, you are now 10% service connected, blah, blah, blah. So the big thing for me, which means great, because I start getting about 170 now a month tax-free. That's great. You get a tax-free payment. But the big, big win was getting the health care. Because I called the hospital the day I got the letter from the VBA. I called the people over VHA and I said, hey, what's going on with my status now? Because before, you know, I was redlined. They said, click, click, click. Oh, I see you got your disability. Welcome to VA healthcare. When do you want your first appointment? I got to tell you, I had my first appointment like 10 days later. When I was going to the other great hospitals out there with my great insurance, it took me I think 4 months to find a primary care. Bam, VA healthcare, had an appointment in 10 days, and that's what I was saying. Again, I never stepped outside the door after that appointment. I've never gone back outside. So that's the great value added of the ability to use VA. So there are a lot of ways to get into it. But essentially, you got to fill out the form, the 1010 Easy. All starts with the government form, right? So you got to fill out the 1010 Easy, copy of your DD-214. You can go to the VA, to any of our hospitals, to the eligibility office, or of course, reach out to me. And I know you guys will connect here after the show. You can always connect folks to me directly, and I'll help you get that in. We'll fax it, scan it one way or another. We'll get it into our eligibility department. And it usually takes about 24 hours. If you did the 2 years of service, honorable, under honorable conditions, and you meet one of these criteria, then you're in within 24 hours. You're going to be enrolled, and probably within 2 weeks, you're going to be able to have your first primary care appointment, and it's just off to the races after that. Fantastic, fantastic.
Dave, I want to thank you for coming on and talking with me. I've learned so much, I always do, and I think this dispels the main, thought and myth that the VA doesn't care about you and that it's just this blank government building that's gray and drab and not there for you. And I've learned personally that the VA has been there for me and other veterans, and so I just want to thank you again for sharing with us and coming on. This is what it's all about, folks. It's all about people like David who is engaging with the local community to spread this message that you have these benefits available to you. You earned what is out there, so please take advantage of it. I want to thank you for coming on and talking with us.
And it's all one team, one fight, right?
One team,
it's
one
all
fight.
All of us reaching out, all of us taking care of each other.
Even the Air Force,
sir.
Even the Air Force, sir, and I'll help an officer out too. No problem at all.
You're awesome, man. You're awesome. You're a blessing, and we appreciate everything you do with the work that you've been doing.
Well, I got a great support system here with this, and it's just been an honor and pleasure. And as we say here at the Abington Veterans Muster, we've come to the conclusion: you are dismissed.